Of 3:10 to left, I'm Alex Speier of the Boston Globe. Unfortunately, Tom Caron is on secret assignment, so I'm going to be flying solo with the Red Sox All-Stars. But the Red Sox are well represented this year. Starting with this guy, we will start with the starter, Tanner Houck. Congratulations on being named to your first All-Star team.
Thank you.
What did it mean? Who do you call when you find out that you are being named as one of the best performers in the American League in the first half of the season?
First person I call was my wife. She's been a rock for me the past few years, going through some injuries, going through the minor leagues. She's been there for it all with me, and I just had to call her and tell her and share that moment with her, and then call the family right after that. It was a special moment, a moment I'll never forget. Thankful for the organization, for AC, for Bailey, for all the guys in that locker room, because without them, I wouldn't be here. And I just feel very privileged, very blessed to be representing such an incredible organization.
Let's give it a little context. Like there are special milestone moments that occur in a career, right? Like the time you are drafted, the time that you are called up to the big leagues, and now being named an All-Star. Like how does it settle in to those kinds of landmarks as a baseball player?
I'll look at it in the way of, biggest milestone is getting drafted. Why? Because that's the start of your journey in professional baseball. From the journey after that, it is making your major league debut, because that's living the dream. That's something that from the age of 5 years old until that moment that you work towards and you sacrificed a lot of things for. Definitely those two are still on the top of my list. But then definitely third is the All-Star game. It's something that you talk about growing up and being a fan of the game. Growing up, I watched all the All-Star games and still remember whenever everyone used to rock the team jersey still.
They should still do that, by the way. That is such a good look.
I like the look, but I do like the fun jerseys.
Okay.
I think it's unique. I like the city vibe with it all. I think it adds that extra element to wherever you go. Like last year with Seattle, this year being in Texas, I think it adds that little bit of spark to the city that really connects you and brings you back. But I am a sucker for the old ways and everyone wearing different uniforms and representing the organization that you're from. But to play in the All-Star game, like I said, it's an incredible milestone. It's something that you dream about as a kid. I feel like I've lived a lot of my dreams that I remember talking with my buddies and being like, pitching in the major leagues one day, pitching in the playoffs, going to an All-Star game now. I keep saying, I just feel so incredibly blessed. I can't, thank the people that have, helped me in my life get to this moment.
You started that by putting at the top of the list getting drafted. So I actually want to take you back a little bit to a moment earlier, and this is at the beginning of your professional career. You, as a Lowell Spinners pitcher, this is one of either your first or second outing.
It's definitely up there. Yeah, it's first or second.
That's you at the beginning of your. When you look at that guy throwing with? I mean, there is a lot happening in that delivery.
Yep.
There are your body. Like I've referred to this as your cubist period in art terms, like where it looks like there are like limbs flying all over the place and like things pulling apart. And I wondered aloud at times then whether or not you could be a healthy and durable starting pitcher then. What do you think when you look at this guy about the pitcher that you've become?
A lot of hours, a lot of days, a lot of weeks, a lot of months, years of hard work. Whenever I first got drafted, I knew I was a project. I wasn't really a multi-pitch pitcher at the time. I basically had sinker slider.
Which were really good pitches.
Which
There's
were
a reason
good
why
pitches,
you were a first rounder at the time.
I still throw them to this day. I can proudly say that. But I knew I had a lot of work to do, and I knew I had a lot of growth to happen. And with that being said, 7 years later, few different pitches developed, then thrown away. It's just been a long time, a lot of work, like I said, and not always good, but not always bad. It's the part of life that it's not the most glamorous, it's not the most fun, but it's the showing up each and every day and trying to get better, and knowing that the end goal and change is hard, but change is good sometimes.
It's super interesting to hear you say that, because part of the reason why, you were open to the idea that even as a first round pick, you were not a finished product. And that's one of the reasons why the Red Sox were kind of drawn to you in that draft, right? Todd Gold was the area scout who saw you a lot at the University of Missouri. And he talked about how he saw you as being someone who would be fast to the big leagues, and then a while beyond that to get to your ceiling, because there was going to be work to figure out a third pitch or maybe a fourth pitch, even after that, and to make some tweaks to your delivery. You had hard development times in there, right? Like, so kind of giving a timeline of it. 18, you debut. Your first full season is in Salem, and you're walking the park, and you're probably making some serious delivery adjustments and trying to figure things out there. You figured it out though. Had a really good second half. You got on a good path. In 19, you shuttle a little bit between the rotation and the bullpen while you're moving through the upper minors, so it's like, where do they see him going? 20, you're at the alt site, figuring things out in this weird bubble, right? And but to me, that time told me so much about you, because that's where you changed your repertoire significantly there. Like how productive, how did you make that crazy time of no fans and no minor league season a productive one for yourself, that really to me is kind of a critical inflection point for you putting yourself and keeping yourself on a starter path?
I think 2020 for the whole world, crazy is the way I'll put it. I mean, crazy to have what happened, but I knew that wasn't going to stop me. After getting invited to the alt site, like I said, I still knew I had a lot of work to do. I knew I had a lot of developing still to happen, and I still believe that about myself today. But 2020 happens, go to the alt site, and I think it was probably the best thing to happen for me individually. And the reason I say that is because there was no numbers. There was no in-game numbers. There was no ERA. There was no, walks, hits, strike. There was none of that. It was strictly, hey, we're here to get better. We're here to grow as pitchers, as hitters, as individuals, and that's it. And then from there, it just kind of, things started to click, and I knew that it wasn't going to be glamorous, and I knew that I still had so much time left to get better, but I felt like that almost propelled me in a way, because that's when I started throwing the splitter. That's whenever the four seam was still kind of in the mix and still getting developed. But ultimately, I think it was the best time for me. And then, making my debut later that year was incredible. And it was a long time, and I know that 2020 was very hard on people, but for me individually, I felt like it was the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah, well, it's super interesting because you were going to the All-Star game with Jaren Duran, and you guys were kind of the stars of the alt site. People were at home, couldn't go anywhere, and there were live feeds from McCoy Stadium. These are the last baseball games happening in Pawtucket, and there's Jaren Duran doing insane things in the middle of this alt site, right? You could just reliably flip on in the afternoon. Oh yeah, there's another home run for Jaren, right? Unfortunately,
no defense, by the way, because we only had 6 hitters.
There would have been a lot of inside the park home runs if anyone had bothered running out of the batter's box. And then there's you, all of a sudden being wait a second, was that just Tanner throwing a split?
Yeah.
How, when you think about not just being an all-star, but the fact that you get to experience this with someone like Jaren, who you've played with for years at this point, this is your 5th season together, and you guys were a level apart in 18 and 19 after he was drafted. But
19 we did play together though.
Oh, he caught up with you at the end for a little bit in Portland.
In Portland, yeah.
You're right. You're right. My bad.
No, you're good.
To think about that, like the fact that you've gotten to see like, does it allow you to appreciate your own growth when you understand Jaren's growth over the course of that same period of time?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We played together for a while now, so I've seen, the beginning of when he first started like playing the outfield. When he got drafted as a second baseman, I still laughed because I was like, you had that speed at second base.
All bottled up is the way that the scout who was on him described it. He was like, "What are we doing here?"
But yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of growth together, and it's been a lot of learning lessons together. We faced each other about 900 times in the alt site, so I think we know each other a little bit better than as baseball players than we ever thought we would. But it's great, like watching Jaren and how he's developed and how his game has, molded into the player that he is now, with the speed that turns a single into a double, and tracking fly balls down in center field, and him showing up every day and putting in that work in the cage, and working with Huddy in the outfield. It does, kind of remind me to take a step back and see how far I have come. With that also being said, I think if you asked us both still, we got a long way to go.
So, from that vantage point of 2020, when you got to not only make those significant improvements, but also make your Major League debut, and let's not forget, like, incredible Major League debut. Those first couple of starts, again, you were kind of the, for the sitting at home viewers, they were pretty spectacular. Would you have anticipated that, within 4 years' time, you would be an all-star pitcher? Did you, like, is this an outcome that you foresaw? Like, are you realizing what you already knew was in you? You've always had conviction about your ability to stay as a starter, and you were kind of stubborn about that, which I think you deserve credit for. But did you understand that you could be this kind of starter?
I always knew I had the ability, and I've always believed in myself more than anyone, and I've always been harder on myself than anyone, and I am stubborn, and I kind of take pride in that. My wife also, I think, would like me not to be so stubborn sometimes. But at the same time, I knew the ability was there, and it was about putting the pieces together. And I always talk about it kind of like a puzzle. And, sometimes you got to, put a piece in and find out later that that's not the piece that works. Just to find that another piece does work for you. And that's kind of the way I've gone about this entire year, and just kind of putting my puzzle together of who I am as a pitcher, as I am as a man, on and off the field, and what that means to me. It just means putting in that work, believing in yourself every day, and just doing the little things that matter.
Last thing I'll finish with. The All-Star Game is a tremendous individual honor, right? But I mean, and you've made a point of making it more than that, of appreciating the people who have been in your life, whether in your life or in your coaching, in your corner, who have helped you develop. But it also has been a significant contributing factor to a Red Sox team that has surpassed expectations for people like me, people outside of certainly outside the clubhouse. How would you characterize what 2024 has been, based not just on that individual accomplishment, but at this kind of break in the year, what it's been like to see this team assembling its own puzzle pieces?
It's a fun team. It's a very young team, and I think that you're seeing a lot of growth on the field. If you look at the team, there's a lot of guys that are under 3 years of service time. I just reached that milestone where I just got over the hump of 3 years. But a lot of young guys that don't have a lot of big league experience, and I think that you're seeing the growth of them into who they'll be. And I think the sky's the limit with this team, and however far they want to push themselves to get better each and every day. And I think that's the strong suit of this team is everyone in that clubhouse wants to get better each and every day, and there's really no days that are taken off, and it's not always going to be pretty, and it's not always going to be easy, and it's, you're going to have tough games, tough weeks, but ultimately, like, it doesn't matter. Like the next day that the guys are ready still super high energy, ready to go. You know, it doesn't matter if we win or lose the night before. We all show up knowing that the next day we got to go out there and do it all over again, and we got to play, you know, a hard 9 innings on defense and on offense, and I think that's really the strong suit of this team.
Last question: will you bring cowboy hats for everyone on the team when you come back from the All-Star game?
I'll see what I can do for them. That'd be fun.
Some good souvenirs to be had. Tanner, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Continuing on our special All-Star edition of 310 to Left with Rafi Devers, third-time All-Star. First of all, congratulations on making another All-Star team. And I wanna take you back to the past a little bit. This is you in 2015, the first time you were at a Major League Baseball All-Star event. This is the All-Star Futures game when you were an 18-year-old. You ended up being at the Futures game twice, and now a 3-time All-Star. When you were this kid, when you were the 18-year-old, could you have imagined you were going to be, like, is this what you thought you were going to be, or is this even more than what you thought you would be in your career?
No, le doy las gracias a Dios primeramente a los fanáticos por darme la oportunidad de estar siempre ahí. Estoy muy agradecido por esto, por mi tercer juego de estrella y como tú muy bien dijiste. Pero yo soy el tipo de persona que vivo el día a día, desde esos momentos vengo trabajando fuerte, vengo dando lo mejor de mí en la pelota y gracias a Dios me tiene ahora mismo una oportunidad muy linda en mi carrera y me siento bastante contento por todo lo que él me ha hecho lograr. Es algo muy bonito pasar por esto.
Yeah, no, I'm just really grateful to the fans, to the players that voted me in. You know, when I was that age, I was just focused on, you know, putting in the hard work every day to try to get to where I wanted to be, which is the major leagues. And, you know, thankfully to God, I was able to do that. And, you know, it's been a long journey and yeah, really happy with how things turned out, really grateful.
It strikes me that, you know, as I think about this trip, well, this obviously, unfortunately, because of the shoulder, you won't be able to take part in this one. By the way, we should ask, how was the shoulder? Like, you know, you've been, one thing that's always struck me is your ability to produce even when you're hurt. I think back to the end of 2021, when you literally, if you swung and missed, you couldn't hold the bat, right? Like you would drop the bat, and yet you were still hitting those game-winning home runs at the end of the season against Washington. How is your shoulder, and how important is it to you to find ways to produce even when you don't feel your best?
No, yo me está un poco ahí, me molesto un poco, pero estamos en el día a día, gracias a Dios, no hay nada grave, pero siento que esos 3 días me vendrían bastante bien y sobre seguir produciendo así, eso es algo que yo soy un tipo que hago ajustes muy temprano, me gusta ese ajuste el día a día, vengo aquí, me preparo temprano para saber quién me va a pichar, para saber cómo voy a tener juego y eso, trato de estar lo más positivo siempre y soy positivo, aunque tenga molestias, siempre voy al home play a dar lo mejor de mí, no importa si me está doliendo algo o algo pasa, pero siempre voy positivo, esa es mi mentalidad.
Yeah, thankfully the shoulder isn't really anything too serious. It's not something that's bothering me too much. And at the end of the day, I'm the kind of player that, like, you know, doesn't matter if I have anything bothering me. I just try to go here to the ballpark to give the best of me. I go up there in home plate, and you know, I'll make my adjustments where I need to make them, so that I can be out there to play. But I'm just always going to be positive, no matter what, and always give the best of me.
So it strikes me, you know, you've always had that significant sense of responsibility to your team, of what you can do, even if you're not feeling your best. But this All-Star game, to me, seems different, this All-Star selection, because when you went the last 2 times, you were kind of the little brother of your other teammates who were going, right? Like when you went in 2022 to Dodger Stadium, you were there with both Xander and with JD. When AC told you that you were an All-Star this time, he said, you don't like it, you hate it, but you're the face of the franchise, which is funny, right? Carita is like his face, right? Like, is he right? Do you hate the idea that you're the face of the franchise? You're established here, you've been in the big leagues, you are the longest tenured Red Sox. Are you comfortable with the idea, I suppose I should say, that when people think of the Red Sox, they think of you, and you know, of the follow through of your swing is kind of iconic, and you know that you're this central player for the Red Sox?
No, que si tú odias que te digan que tú eres la cara de la franquicia. Él dice que, tú sabes, tu swing es algo icónico ya en esta etapa, que lo reconoce muchos de los fanáticos, que si tú todavía como que sigues odiando ese título que te han dado.
No, sabemos que eso es algo ya que me corresponde aquí, pero sabemos que eso no es solamente de esa parte, sino que trato siempre de llevar muy bien con mis compañeros y no es nada que me moleste que me llamen así como un líder, sino que me gusta estar con los jóvenes, me gusta disfrutar, soy un muchacho joven todavía, no me quiero ver en esa situación, sino que me gusta ser lo más alegre, lo más joven que pueda aquí, disfrutar con lo que suben, darle la confianza, no me gusta, vamos a decir algo malo, sino darle confianza y eso.
Yeah, that's my role right now, and something I have to get used to. Leader gets thrown around a lot, and I just want to be that positive influence to the younger guys. I don't want to really get caught up into anything about leadership. I just want to be there to bring the new guys up. I want to be fun how I normally am, and mess around with the new guys, give them the confidence. I don't want to be that guy that's making things uncomfortable for people. I just want to be me.
Last thing I'll ask, how do you feel about how your 2024 has gone so far? The player that you've been and about the team. This is a different team than you've played for before. You mentioned the young guys. There are younger guys around. It's a different dynamic. How would you describe your season and the team's season to this point?
No, de ambas partes pienso que vamos muy bien, gracias a Dios. Le damos la gracias a Dios porque hay mucha juventud y que gracias a Dios no ha convenido que no hemos lesionado tanto, han pasado unas cuantas lesiones, pero al mismo tiempo nos ha ayudado bastante eso, que estamos en salud y eso es lo importante. Hay varias lesiones, pero sabemos que los otros muchachos que están jugando bien y se han mantenido saludables, que eso es lo que importa por ahora.
Yeah, I think in total, I think it's been a pretty good year. I know we've had a lot of injuries and things that we've had to get over, but even still, I think we've played well. We haven't let the injuries stop us, and still a lot of the season left.
Rafi, thank you so much and congratulations on another All-Star game.